Hi everyone, welcome to week 4, Handheld and Mobile Devices for Inquiry. I hope you're having a great summer and I hope you're enjoying the course so far. We are certainly enjoying putting it together for you. Today we're going to talk about the mobile computer or handheld computer, which is basically another term for smartphones and tablets that we have seen emerging. And the first question I wanted to get to basically was why we would consider this to be such an important theme that we would make it one of the 6 themes for this course. It might not seem as central as things like collaboration or assessment, as central to the topic of inquiry. In thinking about the various themes, we chose to include this one. For me, I think because there's a moment in time in terms of where our society is going. These phones, iPhones have been with us since maybe 2007 or 2008, and the iPad really put in an appearance in 2010. So really in the last 5 or 6 years we've seen computers go from being laptops, which in their own right have only been with us for 10 years before that, but laptops to phones and now watches. So things are changing quickly. And I think it is worth taking a pause and reflect about who's actually in the classroom when we are teaching it. I mentioned here in the slide, the classroom is no longer just a room full of kids, it's a room full of smartphone-enabled kids. These are wirelessly connected, socially networked power users. They are online, they are texting each other, they are expecting to use their phones in every aspect of their lives, the teacher as well. Is a phone user, and so for me this becomes an important moment to talk about how these devices could, and should play a role in the inquiry that we design as teachers. If we're going to be in the game of designing inquiry, it seems like a smart thing to put smartphones into the equation. So students' phones are becoming intrinsic to their lives. We often get that feeling when we separate a student from their phone that we're actually cutting off an appendage, and that is how they feel. The question is, how will these phones become intrinsic to their classroom lives? How do we enable them to better interact with peers, both locally in their own classroom and remotely with those at a distance? How do we help them find resources, access data, creating and sharing, exchanging, remixing content would be a powerful new application for these devices. So the question we want to address is how we would bring these devices into inquiry, activities that use them, what kind of resources are available, and what kind of techniques are being used right now. So first, I want to recognize that with the advent of these technologies, it's not just that computers became smaller. We've actually seen the introduction of new modes of interaction, new ways of interacting with a computer. The mouse was a revolutionary improvement on the keyboard, and when we first saw the iPhone in I think it was 2008, we were suddenly introduced to this idea of physically swiping, or tilting, or flinging. And all of these new gestural modes were introduced to our way of thinking about application design. Another one is augmented reality, the idea that we can hold our phone up to a part of our environment and see additional information about that environment. Networked games and applications. We often see kids playing a game on their tablet, and then we realize that in fact there's 2 or 3 of their friends are on the same game, and they're all enjoying the same experience together, but in different settings. So there are many of these new kind of interaction modes for these devices, and they're all being used widely in application development. Students and teachers are becoming familiar with them. Another application of phones that we've seen in society has to do with rapid publishing and blogging. This happens when we post videos that we capture of political events or social events, and we're posting to Twitter, to Pinterest. The mobile phone has revolutionized the ability of people to share and exchange information in very short time cycles. So these new interactions that we now can have with our devices have opened up a set of new affordances for learning. Affordance basically means a new way of potentially doing something, or a new dimension for design. First, that we could have location-aware applications that know where I am, that can plot me on a map, that can give me information accordingly, that I can have physical and embodied learning with my device. Also, social and networked applications. The device could actually know who is around me, who's near me, what is my social context. Publishing and creating becomes a whole new world when it's launched immediately from our mobile and posted to a social website. And many of these applications have been advanced and are potentially exciting for the design of inquiry. Alongside of these changing opportunities for learning, we're seeing a changing culture in our schools, in our classroom, in our society. I mentioned BYOD. It's rapidly becoming a means of achieving that long-sought concept of one-to-one computing, where every kid has their own computer, as well as for other important reasons that I mentioned, where we let them really have a computer that they're personally connected to. We see students using their phones in schools for all kinds of purposes, some of them appropriate, some of them inappropriate. And I think part of the message of this theme this week is that by developing appropriate ones, we reframe what the meaning is of these devices in school. Teachers as well have their own devices, phones, tablets, and we're starting to see interesting applications for the teacher-supported technologies in the classroom. The whole concept that we're trying to consider here is how to put these new applications and affordances to use for learning, how to help engage and motivate kids, show them that essentially their most trusted, important personal device is actually something that would be seen as valued in the school setting as well, and that would play a significant role in their learning. One other interesting and potentially important application of mobile computing is this idea of learning across contexts, that we could have some activity that happens in classroom and then is continued in the homework, or on the schoolyard, or out in the kids' everyday lives, that we can connect field trip experiences by virtue of kids taking their phones and getting augmentation of those experiences, taking photos, finding out more information while they're out there, bringing that back with them to the classroom. And it offers a sense of continuity between these learning contexts, as well as between school and home. We could imagine connecting school and museum informal learning, and potentially connecting two different classrooms. I might be able to have a video FaceTime conversation with students in another room, or with different classes in my school, where I essentially bring with me elements of one inquiry activity from one class to another. So the phone becomes essentially an object that carries continuity between contexts and over time for the student. So I want to talk about how to integrate these phones and tablets into our inquiry designs. And it's like collaboration, just because we recognize that it could be an important thing to do, and we recognize that there are resources that could allow us to use these devices. It does not mean that the problem is now solved. There's still hard work to be done in thinking about designs and making lesson plans. Three types of applications that I've thought of for putting these mobiles into a curriculum are, first, the idea of voting or polling, or even commenting, and we see many applications for this. I'll refer to a few shortly, but these kind of clickers or audience response systems, the phones and personal devices offer a new way to do that. The second one is that there are plenty of applications that are now emerging for all kinds of disciplines that run on mobile and handheld apps that are special purpose and they could lend themselves to learning. And the third one has to do with using the features of the device, the camera, gyroscope, and compass, and accelerometers, as well as potential external probes that you could hook into them for collecting, observing, and uploading content. So these three are all very powerful kinds of applications. I'm going to review them now one at a time. The first approach to integrating mobile devices I call here social web applications. These are web apps that you put the device on the internet and you go to typically a URL. It opens a web page specifically designed to appear on a mobile phone, and that students are then connected into some grouping, usually by entering a PIN of some kind. And these are used widely by teachers right now for many applications, but a couple of examples of the software that we're seeing are Poll Everywhere, Socrative is another good one, and Kahoot is one I've been hearing quite a lot about. So you've probably heard already about clickers and about getting kids real-time polls on the front of the room. Of course, that again doesn't solve the problem. What do you ask them in the poll? What makes for a good poll, and how do you use the poll information as a means of getting into deeper learning? So integrating these poll softwares into inquiry lesson designs is a crucial aspect to making them work effectively for you. Another approach I mentioned were these what I called special purpose applications, and these are just a wide range of apps that depend on your discipline. There are applications for science, for math, many for art and creativity. You can sketch, you can layer, you can do virtual oil painting, for music creation, music remixing, for astronomy, and for learning games of all kinds for elementary age kids. So you've all probably run into various of these kind of custom applications, and again, while there is the strength there that they were carefully designed sets of materials and activities for kids, when you use them as just a standalone app, you tell kids go here and download this and use it, it loses some of its potential potency for learning in the context of your curriculum. So again, the most challenging and important aspect of using these kinds of off-the-shelf apps would be to integrate them into a broader lesson design. And say you take a one period using a phone app, or half a period. How do I situate that in a sort of multi-day lesson so that it becomes a real opportunity for them to reflect and build on the experience of using their app, or of using whatever they created in the app. And then the final one that I'll mention is this idea of student contributed content. The advent of these mobile devices have really introduced a new dimension of content where now users and citizens are uploading videos and pictures, and this happened on the laptops before 2008, but it really took off when mobiles came. And likewise with classroom applications, we're seeing new opportunities for getting students to upload and essentially curate classroom collections using Pinterest. For example, many students in my course and teachers that I've met have created Pinterest boards around a certain topic and asked students to go find websites or take photos and upload those and create a really interesting mosaic that becomes then an object the teacher can refer to and the students can go refer to drive further discussions and further inquiry. Even microblogging like Twitter, and getting kids to have a Twitter room for their classroom. But meanwhile, there are apps like mapping, so I can have a student turn on map applications on the iPhone and track course around the school, or track their course from school to home, and use that as a reflective product that could be integrated into inquiry. Music and music creation and remixing and playing and filtering is another strong set of opportunities for students to use their device as a means of production of content and uploading of content. These are really exciting new ways of supporting genuine, student-centered inquiry using mobile devices. So those are the three types or approaches that I've thought of, and actually just as I'm recording this lecture, I thought of a fourth one, which is really interesting, that of augmented reality. Augmented reality might seem like the kind of thing you're expecting to need special, the Oculus Rift glasses or some expensive technology system, but it's becoming much more accessible than that. There are a few systems that I'll list here: LAR, Aurasma, especially those two that teachers can use, that I know my students in my class have used, where you can actually sprinkle content around your room, embed it with video or with other supplemental information, and then students take their phone and once they get something into focus that has recognized by the system, then up pops the complementary information. So getting kids to push augmentation into their environment, or even taking a book and pushing content onto different pages that are supplemental to the resources, is an excellent potential application for mobile devices. So that's my introduction of the different ways that I see mobile and handheld computers, phones, and tablets being used for inquiry. It does not solve the challenge of doing so. That remains an aspect of design, much like the other elements that we're talking about in this course. Hopefully some of you are pushing handheld and mobile features into your lesson designs. And if you're critiquing the designs, if you're not in the design strand but you're helping give input, maybe you can help a lesson think about new applications for phones or tablets. The reasons for doing it I've mentioned in the first few slides, but basically these activities help students feel a personal identity to the content and structure of learning. It situates it on a device with which they're very familiar and they're very comfortable. I think it could potentially inspire further inquiry on their own part, let's say autonomous inquiry, where they go home and they say, well, I did this in school. Even my kids come home when they see something that they've done in school and they have their tablet, they launch it on the tablet and they either want to show us or do more of it. It supports the classroom community, so it offers these sort of flexible ways for everyone to participate, and giving many opportunities for the teacher to weave polls in and give even anonymous voice to students. Not every student wants to have their opinion named, and so there's opportunity here for that, supporting the diversity of perspectives, but protecting kids' anonymity. And finally, just that it's another tool for the teacher. It's another form of input and creative production of content that students can use and that teachers can work into their curriculum. Also, along related lines, that offers new opportunities for formative assessment and being able to capture and look at what your students are producing. You saw this with Sean's video in week, I think it was week 2, where he used the Nearpod application to get a sense of student ideas about electric circuits. So that's enough for me, I guess, on this topic of mobile and handhelds. You're going to see 2 more videos, one briefly from the school leaders at UTS, and then you'll see a case study of a teacher named Anand who used a special purpose application to help his kids when they went to the zoo to collect observations of the zoo animals, both in terms of their form and function and habitat, and then to bring those observations back into class where he was able to use them to support their further study of evolutionary biology. So it's an interesting case. I hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the discussions and the design space. Thanks.